Welcome to Wrasslin' Raw!
Alright, you're listening to Wrasslin' Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Well, Jason Bartlett, I'm now going to refer to you as good old JB.
What an honor. Joe Gimateo.
You ain't nothing but a third-string announcer, fat boy.
What a perfect piggyback. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, or good old JB, I guess. We're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. But first, some breaking news here in the Wrasslin' Raw world. Our technical director, Mr. Ryan Arico, has informed me that we have a new subscriber from Japan now, which is a first for us. I think Japan was one of the last remaining holdouts.
Yeah, it was a tough one to break through, but Dave Meltzer must have logged in on somewhere over there and got us in.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. It's about time you did something good for us. All right, so in this episode of Wrasslin' Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on December 29th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York, and features Jim Ross, Kevin Kelly, Michael Cole, and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. Last week, the neutering and humiliation of Sergeant Slaughter continued when Shawn Michaels decided to lay down for Triple H and hand Triple H the European title. And then, in a really weird transition, the screen switched to one of those up next graphics, like we had already had content in the episode. That threw me for a little bit of a loop. But the artist formerly known as Goldust was up there, in all of his neon green, chrome booby lipstick nipple glory. I guess he's going to be studying the Book of Austin? Whatever the hell that means. That was according to Michael Cole. After the show intro, Goldust came out dressed as the New Year's baby. In a diaper, he had a sash, and a bonnet, bottle, and a rattle. Must have borrowed it from that fucking diaper match that Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid had years ago.
That's immediately what I thought of when I saw that big bottle.
Triggering my PTSD from that crybaby match.
Yeah, it was like a flashback, a little twitch of the neck.
Luna was wrapped in, I'm guessing it was supposed to be like a Father Time kind of white robe looking thing. It didn't really work.
Well, she is from the future.
She is. Good call. I didn't even think of that. And this, it made it seem like we were going into our first match of the night. The artist, formerly known as Goldust, with Luna Vachon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, didn't even get started. Luna announced Goldust on the microphone to express himself. Goldust started out saying that he's going to be entering the 1988 Royal Rumble. I'm assuming he meant 98, but it was funny. Austin came out in his vest and jeans, and I knew right then that this match wasn't going to be happening. Stone Cold got on the microphone and cut a promo about how he's going to continue using bad language, finger gestures, and violence well into the new year. Stone Cold then calls Goldust a piece of crap, saying that he won't be wrestling him, and then started to lower some kind of contraption down from the building. It was a big something under a black tarp. You couldn't tell what it was at all. When they finally got it into the ring and took the tarp off, it was revealed to be a porta-john with a sign on it saying Crapper 316. Austin asked the crowd, if you think it stinks in there, give me a hell yeah. And the crowd did indeed think that it probably stank in there. Goldust tried to sneak up on Austin, but Austin slammed the shitter door in his face. That started a beatdown that ended with Goldust tossed into the crapper, and then Austin tipped it over with Goldust inside. JR yelling, "Don't squeeze the Charmin!" And this segment finished up with a view of the commentary table, highlighting that there is some kind of wooden crate at the top of the entryway, and I got very, very excited about that fact.
So did Jim Cornette.
There was also a teaser at the top here saying that there was going to be some kind of interaction between the WWF and Mike Tyson. Details to come later on that. So guys, I would ordinarily say we got swerved here, but I really doubted Austin would be in an opening match, and him coming out wearing his jeans just confirmed that for me. But still, what a way to kick this episode off. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Joe, what did you think about the way we started the evening here?
Well, for me, much like the Crapper 316, I thought this segment kind of stunk a little bit. I feel like it just took too long to set up. Like that fucking porta potty took forever to get lowered, and then they had issues whenever it did get lowered, and Austin had to kind of pivot a little bit and pull the porta potty towards the ring. I don't remember this at all, but I knew it was a porta potty before he revealed it. It was just, I don't know, it just looked like a fucking porta potty to me under that black curtain. I don't know, to me was just Vince's toilet humor fetish again on display. I just didn't really think it was that funny. I did enjoy Goldust taking those bumps though on the porta potty. I thought that was pretty funny. And, of course, another reason why I didn't like it too much was the PTSD from the Crybaby match.
Understandable.
Now, Vince McMahon, he claims to have balls the size of grapefruits, but I'm pretty sure Dustin Runnels has grapefruit-sized balls after doing this gimmick because he is getting a lot of heat with these fans.
Oh, yeah.
And it's scary.
And to kind of play off that, after he comes down in his ridiculous baby outfit, and he starts, again, just like last week, talking in that overly effeminate voice, and then he says, Steve, we could play dress up. I'll be your Barbie girl and you could be my Big Ken. And he pulls out a pair of black thong. Just fuck. In certain parts of the country, even to this day, he might get stabbed for trying to pull off a gimmick like that. So yeah, props to him. But Joe, I do kind of agree. The setup ruined this. If it would have went a little bit quicker, this would have been a pretty good segment. I still enjoyed it. It was entertaining. But that time in between where Stone Cold is slowly lowering the Crapper into the ring, and then
he's even kind of like busting their balls because of what's happening.
And then it takes another 2 minutes to like get all the revealing tarp off of it, and it took way too long. But once it did, I thought him and Goldust used the Crapper very well. The moment that Goldust tries to attack him, perfect timing, Stone Cold turns around, smacks him in the head with the door of the Crapper, and throws him in there. So there was entertaining parts of it. It's just the amount of time it took to set it up kind of ruined it. At the very end, I was a little sad, though. Goldust comes crawling out, and he was perfectly clean. So, no color.
Yeah.
No color. Not red in this instance.
Liquid.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Fake diarrhea would have helped.
Even a urinal cake in his mouth.
Something.
Right.
See, Austin busting their balls while it was coming down was what made it entertaining for me. I agree that the whole thing was a clusterfuck, but him being impatient on the microphone salvaged it for me totally. And, I mean, let's be honest, we don't want things coming down from the ceiling any faster than they should. So, But, like I said, I enjoyed the hell out of that. So, we can keep talking about it if you want. I mean, I know you guys are a little not as up on it as I am, but let's see, we can do it for maybe another 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
No.
I wish. I really do. I really do.
Well, let's tear this Band-Aid off. Our actual first match of the night. The Disciples of the Apocalypse. This is 8-Ball, Chains, and Skull. Defeat Los Boricuas, Jesus Castillo, Miguel Perez, and Savio Vega by pinfall in 3 minutes and 17 seconds in a 6-man tag team match. Like every single word of that sentence I just said, it just kept getting worse and worse.
Who keeps booking these matches between these two fucking factions?
It's a Long Island brawl.
Ugh.
Everybody wants it. Everybody in that crowd wants it.
So Los Boricuas, they were out first. They were rapping. It was terrible. And I was already planning on zoning out for the next 3.5 minutes here, but commentary gave us a breakdown of the history of this rivalry, a history no one asked for, with a rivalry nobody finds interesting. And like I said, I didn't really pay attention. At one point, they called this the Long Island Brawl, and all I could think of is, if I'm a Long Islander, I would be mortally offended by that.
Yeah.
There was a guy in the crowd with a sign that said "Stab him." I thought that was funny. That was probably the best part of this match.
There was also a sign that said "Warrior, come back."
And the finish was even more ridiculous than the match. Jesus Estrada, the illegal member of this group, in the match, I mean, got in the ring. Nobody cared, but Jesus was the one that got pinned, and still nobody cared. And unfortunately, I expect this bullshit to keep going now that there's been a questionable decision in this match. Oh, wait a second. His name isn't Jesus Estrada. What's his first name? It doesn't fucking matter. I mixed that up, but I really don't care. Joe, I hated this. Why are they continually subjecting us to this bullshit? You've got a good mind for the business. If anybody can tell me that, it's you.
Well, I don't have anything for you, pal. Sorry.
He ain't that good. I
mean, we fucking got rid of Crush, and I thought, okay, finally we can get rid of this DOA bullshit, but now they seem to be putting that rocket ship on chains.
Rocket shit.
Rocket
just
shit
as good.
On our boy Chains. So that's exciting, right? So, I don't know. Hopefully this will go away soon.
It's unbelievable that they keep on subjecting us to this. And then to top it off, this Long Island brawl turns out to be just a 3-on-3 fucking worthless fest in the ring. And I don't get it. I don't get it. And Bartlett, like you pointed out, because of this questionable ending, it's guaranteed we're going to have at least one more of these matches, if not 20. So, fuck me.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. Fuck me. Let's get the hell away from that.
Apologies to any of our Long Island friends, too, by the way, that they had to suffer through this.
Yeah, I feel for you. If you want to start up a GoFundMe to pay for whatever kind of therapy you're undergoing now, I would contribute to that.
I will gladly donate.
All right, so after we returned from a commercial break, Triple H and Chyna were in the ring. Triple H was wearing a knee brace and he was on crutches. And before anybody started to talk, I was startled to see that Chyna apparently got her first boob job. First thing I noticed about this segment. Triple H goes on to say that he won't be defending his European title tonight. Shawn Michaels is not here either because he's at home with shakes and shivers. I'm sure that's just the flu. But then some random druids in wrestling boots, tights, and black robes started wheeling down a casket, heavily implying that the Undertaker was here to address things. In reference to Shawn Michaels, Kevin Kelly asks JR if he thinks Shawn has the blue flu. And I didn't know what that was, so I had to look it up because it piqued my interest. According to Google, the blue flu is a euphemistic term referring to a bargaining tactic where law enforcement officers would call in sick in large numbers in order to strike without actually striking and violating certain laws. So, yeah, just neat little tidbits.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And with Shawn Michaels, a valid concern. So, once the casket got to the ring, we found out it was a swerve, bro. Shawn Michaels came out of the now graffitied casket, and those fucking druids disappeared. There was no word on if they were like DX pledges or how they got involved in this, but Shawn said that he'd like to introduce the two newest members of DX, and sure enough, they're Chyna's boobs. And I had completely forgotten about this. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh my God, it's that segment. And they had a really good time playing around with Chyna and her boobs there for a moment. And it was entertaining, but I also couldn't help but think a small piece of Chyna's mystique was lost here. But then Commissioner Slaughter, he dragged his sackless frame down to the ring. Slaughter's order here was that since Triple H can't defend his title tonight, Shawn Michaels would be defending his against Owen Hart later on. And that caused the requisite tantrum and a crowd pop. Don't forget, everybody, there is a box on the stage. I didn't want that to slip anybody's mind here as this segment wore down. Something may come out of that box later, and every time I caught a glimpse of it, I got more excited about that.
How could you not?
I mean, right? Just, it's like Christmas.
Or Thanksgiving with the egg.
Also equally rewarding, in my opinion. So also, guys, apparently there is a group of people. We got a view of the Disciples of Apocalypse. Scott Taylor, I think the Headbangers were there in this scene. These guys are all going to band together to take out Kane at some point because they are tired of being jobbed out to a guy that used to be a dentist. So I thought this was a great segment. Admittedly, I'm not too happy about Chyna's boob job because it just feels like the first step away from what made her so perfect. But the segment and boob jokes, definitely entertaining. Ryan, what'd you think about DX's 2 newest members and this segment surrounding them?
I thought it all started out pretty good. I didn't remember right away what segment it was either. So when Triple H came out with the knee brace, obviously you knew that was going to be a swerve at some point tonight. But I didn't remember that the casket coming down was Shawn Michaels. And then when he gets in the ring, he starts making these implant jokes about Chyna introducing the 2 newest members. And, no, it's not Road Dogg and badass Billy Gunn. It's Chyna and her implants. I thought all of the jokes here really were pretty funny. I thought they did a good job joking around about it. And then the segment really worked right up until Commissioner Slaughter made his soft, limp, impotent way down the ring and made some type of power move that you knew was just going to be nullified at some point tonight. But I thought everything DX did here, though, really hit.
Yeah, I agree. This is like a show full of gimmicks. We had the crapper earlier, and now we have this casket rolling out here, and it's a swerve. So might have a little bit of Vince Russo writing going on here on this show. But I feel like the Shawn in the casket was a little bit predictable to me, only because I feel like they kind of telegraphed it a little bit with just Chyna and Triple H coming out here, and then obviously faking an injury and lying about Shawn Michaels not being there. I kind of figured that was him that was going to come down in a casket, but it was still pretty good. And I completely did not even notice Chyna's boobs until they started pointing it out. So I feel like I had to basically reevaluate my whole life and what I'm doing on this earth if I didn't notice that. But I guess maybe it's because we kind of knew that happens later, and maybe I just didn't really notice. But all those jokes were also fantastic. And Sergeant Slaughter, I fucking groaned when he came down, and I shouldn't have to do that, but I did because I mean we now know that Vince McMahon has an extreme fetish of humiliating people in real life and on television, and Sarge is his recent victim here, and I just hate to see it.
Yep.
Yeah. So whenever they were making the boob jokes about Chyna, it kind of made me think back, and no wonder they had her wearing that Chyna syndrome shirt for the past couple weeks. They were probably healing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because before that, I mean, she was wearing the tight stuff.
Always wearing
and then
muscle shirts. Yeah.
A couple weeks she was wearing a baggy t-shirt. But now that they're healed, we can't let you put over your own merch, Chyna. Get those puppies on display.
Slap them out.
All right, let's go into our next match. Ken Shamrock defeats Kama Mustafa with D'Lo Brown and Farouk by submission in 3 minutes and 36 seconds. I feel like we've had this match before because I remember making fun of the Supreme Fighting Machine gimmick up against an actual MMA fighter. I don't know if you guys remember it or not. It was probably just a throwaway match like this one. It
was one of Ken's first matches, yeah.
And I also wanted to point out, before this match got started, and maybe prove me wrong, but I'm just officially fully erect for Ken Shamrock here. When I see his name on the card or hear his entrance music, I'm automatically excited. Like, his career so far in the WWF has been nothing but the right choices. They have just knocked it out of the park in the way that they brought him in and pushed him, the stories that they're putting him in. It's just great to have somebody that's a relative newcomer that I'm so up about, that they're not just kind of like fucking around with or ruining. So that continues to make me very happy that we're getting such great shit out of Ken here. Ken was just looking especially good with Kama. Kama's a great worker and also significantly larger than Shamrock. JR did point that out on commentary, but the size difference here really made Ken look strong and effective. I loved JR pointing out that Farouk is the leader of the nation and then wondering where The Rock is. That was a great thing from JR there. Something I did not like, though, was JR trying to call the match and Michael Cole talking over him with this stupid shit that you can tell Vince is telling to just tell him to yell, and the whole thing is just shitty. And as much as I love Kevin Kelly, this 3-man booth shit needs to go. The match finished with Shamrock hitting the armbar takedown into the ankle lock, but the segment wasn't over yet as The Rock came out, telling the nation to hold on. The Rock cut a promo on Ken, and the point there was that The Rock has decided that next week, Ken Shamrock will take on the leader of the nation, Farouk. Farouk did not look like he appreciated that presumption. And The Rock finished it up telling Kama and D'Lo to know their role, and then telling Farouk, let's go. Ryan, I've got to say, this whole Ken versus The Rock with the Farouk subplot story, this is probably my favorite angle going in the WWF at this time. What did you think of this match? This is just great shit, I thought.
I'd agree. I thought this whole segment from the match to The Rock coming out after, I thought all of it really worked. Shamrock against Kama, Kama's a good worker, and he just made Ken look even stronger up against such a big man like Kama. And it started right out of the gate when Kama rushes Shamrock right into a great looking fireman's carry. He puts on that big ass Kama. He just slams him. The whole ring shaked. It looked great. It wasn't a very long match as you'd expect. And at some point, JR brought up that some would say Shamrock is the toughest man ever in the octagon, and others would say Dan Severn. So I guess, Joe, you brought that up a couple weeks ago that there were resuming talks with him. So they must have went somewhere now that they're name dropping Dan Severn again. But altogether, enjoyable match. And then when The Rock came out at the end, them just continuing this little tiff between the members of the nation as Rock just continues to dismiss Farouk, even though he does call him the leader here. I loved it all.
Yeah, it's great when they can use a match like this to sort of be, part of this storyline that they're building here, which is really great to see because Ken Shamrock, he has been great so far, Bartlett, you're right. He was in a little bit of a program with Bret Hart before he left. He went up against Shawn Michaels. He was in the big title picture there. And once he lost, you would think, well, somebody could maybe fall pretty hard after that, but he's not because he's got this program with The Rock right now, which is great. And The Rock has a program with Farouk too, which is awesome. And bossing him around, this whole angle is just great. And they're doing a great job at building up to, that payoff that who knows when we're going to see it. It seems like we're still kind of far away from it just by the way they're acting, but it's something to look forward to. And I love that Farouk has a good program going right now that does not involve Ahmed Johnson or gladiator helmets or any other bullshit. And that's good to see too.
Yeah, totally agreed. And I think it's so cool that, we've had everybody else in the nation in matches over the past few weeks. Farouk's the one person that hasn't, as far as I can remember. And it's just neat that we've got him on the back burner there so that when he finally comes up, people are getting so used to booing and hating on The Rock. It's got me wondering, is this going to be a babyface turn for Farouk and the nation? I don't really remember it happening that way, but the way that they're doing this, how can you not root for Farouk to just beat the shit out of The Rock at this point?
Yeah, and they're doing just such a great job of weaving this upcoming feud in with all these other storylines that The Rock has had between Ken right now and Stone Cold earlier. Just a really good job of interweaving these storylines.
Yeah, now you maybe expect Farouk to screw The Rock when he has his match against Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you expect.
Not to mention that I assume very soon, if we haven't missed it because maybe it's not on Raw, but that iconic meme picture of The Rock rolling his eyes as Farouk talks, that has to be coming very soon, right?
Yeah. Like I said, the best booked angle in the company right now. This is great shit.
Yeah, The Rock is, he's still playing around with stuff, but he is The Rock now, the version that we love. I mean, he's there now.
We got the Know Your Role tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Still to come tonight, there's a box up there at the top of that entryway. My whole body was practically trembling with anticipation. I didn't know if I could handle the suspense anymore. but they sure tried to damper down any kind of excitement I was feeling whenever they cut to earlier today, a panoramic view of an empty arena and Vince McMahon sitting there.
It had me trembling for different reasons.
The graphic introduced WWF owner Vince McMahon, and Vince was in full salesman mode as he wished us all a happy new year. And jokes aside, I mean, I did think that was a nice sentiment. So, Joe, I was wondering if maybe Ryan after, if you guys have anything you want to talk about. There's this other segment. It's like another 2.5, 3 minutes that maybe we should kill some time through, or no?
Well, I mean, Vince McMahon wishing me a happy new year, he can get fucked, because that is Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
Wishing me a happy new year. I'd like to spit a big loogie in his face.
One thing that I had to get a kind of a laugh to myself was when Vince McMahon said 1998 is going to be one of the greatest years ever for the WWF, and it is. I mean, yeah. He's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's raging hard because he knows he's got Mike Tyson now, too. Yeah. So, that's probably part of it.
All right, well, let's just get this out of the way. Our next match. Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler defeat Taka Michinoku and George the Animal Steele by disqualification in 2 minutes and 38 seconds. I could have sworn the cartoon shit was supposed to be on Saturdays from now on.
The kiddie pool.
Yeah, here it is. Lawler did say at the start that Brian Christopher's real father was JR. I thought that was funny, but nobody cared or responded, so, they moved along. I was surprised at how old and out of shape the animal looked. I mean, I don't know what I expected, but I didn't get whatever it was I was expecting, I guess. I don't know. I did enjoy Taka getting his ass kicked while George Steele was still chewing on turnbuckles. That was pretty funny. And, of course, Lawler illegally interfering in the match. That was okay in front of the ref, but George Steele interfering illegally in front of the ref, that was too much, and that drew the disqualification. Our final view of the arena here showed us this box. It's up on the stage and it started shaking and rocking. JR assured us that it would not be the gobbledygooker, and I was like, well, I mean, if it is, I wouldn't be upset. This match and that shaking box is what closed out the first hour of Raw. Joe, the son of Lawler, it strikes again to just piss on us here. What did you have on this match?
I mean, is this like the 25th time we've seen Brian Christopher and Taka in the ring against each other?
Only a few times less than DOA and Los Boricuas.
Well, speaking of the Boricuas, I would like to see a George the Animal Steele versus a Miguel match.
For the title of Sasquatch.
Yeah, the hairy sweater match.
That's so
the mole suit. The mole suit.
Yeah, this was pretty bad, but it's in New York. I don't know if maybe they enjoyed it, seeing nostalgia here, I guess. I don't know. George the Animal Steele. If I remember correctly, I think he's like a trainer or producer or whatever in the back during this time. Like he is an office employee, so it wasn't like he just came out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, he's got to be what, like 60?
Yeah,
here. So
and he was never in good shape.
No, I mean. This is the kind of shit you do on a house show, not to close out the first hour of Raw.
So I'm going to disappoint you both because
oh no, I loved it.
I love George the Animal Steele. I always have. He was the very first WWF action figure I ever had growing up, was George the Animal Steele. So the nostalgia pop worked for me. I know seeing him come out and bite into the turnbuckles, I was smiling from ear to ear. I mean, the match with fucking Lawler and Jerry's Kid and Taka, whatever. But I loved seeing George the Animal Steele. So fuck you both. It worked for me. I got my pop.
Yeah, I'm sure it helped that George the Animal Steele was too decrepit to even wrestle a single hold in the match.
Fine.
I mean, he stood in the corner the whole time doing nothing until it was time for him to get the disqualification.
Yeah, that's fine.
He had dinner. He ate the entire turnbuckle.
While Taco was getting his ass kicked.
Loved it.
Jesus, just your judgment is just going downhill, I think. All right. So, at the start of the second hour, our first view was of JR and the King at the commentary table, and I was very happy to hear the King say, "Forget all of that," in reference to the son of Lawler as we moved into our next match. Cactus Jack defeats the Road Dogg with Billy Gunn by disqualification in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. The Road Dogg started it off calling the action of their greatest hits against Dude Love and then Mankind. That was pretty awesome. They had video footage playing up on the Titantron. But then Dude Love came up on the Titantron, and I loved this because this was another one of those Faces of Foley moments.
He's morphing. He's morphing.
Right before our very eyes. Dude Love, he got his ribs broken, so he's going to have to pass the baton to Mankind. Mankind, he tried and kind of failed last week down in the boiler room, so Mankind passed the baton to Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack cut a little promo before coming out. Cactus said that Chainsaw Charlie is here. And he came out from behind the curtain with a barbed wire baseball bat. There was general confusion around that statement. I was barely able to contain myself. I had saturated a towel already and had to get another one. But Cactus, he was going to win with the double arm DDT there in the ring, but Billy Gunn interfered, drawing the DQ. I mean, this was more or less a 2-minute match. The action was good, but short. So after the finish there, that's when Cactus went up the ramp. He invited the New Age Outlaws to follow him, and they fucking did, to kick his ass, admittedly, but you wouldn't think they would listen to him for any kind of request. But once they were up at the top of the ramp beating on Cactus, the sound of a chainsaw fired up. And it made me think in this one split second, when it comes to engines firing up, motors firing up, what we've gotten for so long have been the dipshits of the apocalypse. And that's like the harbinger of death for these matches.
And this clearly wasn't that.
This was clearly a much better kind of motor firing up as a blade started cutting through the box. And sure as shit, Chainsaw Charlie came out of that box and I popped my fucking ass off. And the segment more or less ended there. Cactus and Chainsaw went down to the ring. The New Age Outlaws were running away. Back in the day watching this, I was always very concerned about the safety issues of fucking Chainsaw Charlie swinging this chainsaw around. And today, in the modern day, I still get concerned watching this, him swinging that fucking chainsaw around.
Well, the chain is off.
It is. And it's funny because whenever he was still in the box, you could see him taking a moment to take the chain off real quick before he kicked it open. But
it looked like there was another guy. It looked like there was another chainsaw.
I thought just another chainsaw was what I thought.
Yeah, because you could see the guy like leaving as
okay.
Chainsaw Charlie like burst.
Yeah, I thought they just kind of swapped out the chainsaw. But
yeah.
I missed it. I had been overcome with the vapors, having seen Chainsaw Charlie there. So
their magic trick was good, but it wasn't perfect.
Yeah. Well, guys, in hindsight, this being 25 years worth of hindsight, the most I can ultimately say about Chainsaw Charlie is that I'm glad Terry Funk was hitting the pay window. There's not really much to Chainsaw Charlie in the grand scheme of things. But that did not stop me from giving into the nostalgia. And as we all know, anything that comes out of a box is automatically over. That was correct here. So, Ryan, what did you think of this match and the debut of Chainsaw Charlie?
I fucking loved every second of this. Every fucking moment of it. Like, from Dude Love up on the Titantron into Mankind in the Cactus Jack. The match was short, but it was entertaining, especially, we've made fun of some chair shots in the past, but the Road Dogg lands a real fucking haymaker on Cactus Jack, and Mick sold it so perfect. His legs went crossed, and he just like slowly crumbled into the ground. It was perfect. And then up at the top of the ramp, Chainsaw Charlie fucking cutting through the box. I couldn't have got any more erect, to be honest. It was just, it's just fucking fantastic. And then when they did do the chainsaw swap, they apparently forgot to put the cap back on the gas because it was just pouring out.
Oh my
of the
God,
well, the part I was scared about was you had all these sparks just flaming out the front of it, and then all this gas spilling down the arms of Terry Funk. But thankfully, everything worked out, and he didn't end up a Kane victim here. But man, what a fucking fantastic segment! I loved every goddamn second of it.
Jesus, can you imagine getting that pantyhose like
Melted
onto your face?
Yeah.
God.
Permanent bank robber.
Yeah, it's amazing how well this holds up, really. This is Terry Funk. They say that Terry Funk is your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. That's what they always say about him. Like
The wrestler's wrestler.
Mick Foley, Bret Hart, they've been known to say that Terry Funk is their favorite wrestler. I hate to admit this, but because of the location that we grew up in and the limited access to certain channels, I never heard of Terry Funk until Chainsaw Charlie when I was a kid.
The only reason I knew anything about him was because of Foley following him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, Long Island, they fucking popped hard for Cactus.
Oh,
They liked the other two, but when Cactus was on the screen, they popped pretty hard, so that was cool. But yeah, Chainsaw Charlie, I mean, Chainsaw Charlie was, from what I understand, it was Terry Funk's idea, too. Like, that was not a Vince McMahon gimmick.
I'm pretty sure that was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre's idea.
Well,
Yeah.
they did, so in Japan, there was a Leatherface gimmick in Japan while he was there.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the Stranglemania VHS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
And I guess that's kind of where he got the idea to do this Chainsaw Charlie. This could have easily been another Shockmaster level thing, but it was not.
No.
I mean, this was just so well executed. They had to be so erect after this show. Like, man, we fucking pulled that one off. That was awesome.
Not to mention, like, obviously we're not there yet, but the little segment later just puts it over the top.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is not even like touching the surface of what he did in his career. But
No.
This is just fucking amazing.
But yeah, I'm glad he's getting a third piece of cheese on that Whopper.
Yeah.
All right. So just to let our listeners know, the show at this point, it entered a wall of non-match segments. I did my best to break them up here to, try to space it out a little bit, but to put it into the bigger context, there were only 2 matches in the second hour of Raw, totaling about 13 minutes. So a lot of non-wrestling content to cover here. Funnily enough, that's given what we're going to get from Jim Cornette later, but anyway, let's get into it here. So first up was Sable. Sable came out in a black robe, quite obviously wearing very little else underneath, making sure to strategically flash cleavage here and there. Kevin, oh my God, Kelly was there in the ring to interview her. He was holding a copy of Raw magazine with Sable on the cover there, and I guess this was their first ever swimsuit edition. There were dual covers, Sable on one and Sunny on another one. Sable said she was there to celebrate and to give the fans a preview of what to expect.
No. She said, would you like a preview?
Ugh.
Mark Marrow ended up coming down to the ring, though. He was wearing a Canadian tuxedo and carrying a chair to sit in. He ended up just setting it up to sit down and asked if Sable was about to do anything to piss him off.
I mean, who doesn't ask their wife that every day?
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly, he tried to calm Marrow down, but Marrow called him a fatso, I think, and just dropped him with a punch. And then Tom fucking Brandy came out to rescue Sable, but thankfully Marrow cranked him with that steel chair and then gave Brandy the TKO onto it before grabbing Sable and leaving. That's where this chunk of this segment ended, and as annoying as Sable is, I have to say, like, I'm really digging Mero as a heel. He's doing a great job as a heel. I am enjoying hating him, but not in a go home kind of way like I was before.
Yeah.
But this Tom Brandi bullshit, I mean, that's not helping anybody. So Ryan, what'd you think of this part of the segment?
It wasn't bad. Sable came out. She pushed the swimsuit edition. The crowd loved that, even if she was robotic in doing it. And then when Mark came down, yeah, he sat down in this chair, and it kind of felt like it turned into a Lifetime movie as he kind of said, "Are you going to embarrass me?" As he glared at her, and she kind of sheepishly said no. But then Tom Brandi, I mean, he literally was just called out as a jobber weeks ago, yet we are supposed to care about him? I don't know about that, but I do agree Mark has done a great job of taking himself out of go-home heat and getting some real heel heat, which maybe is what he should have done from the beginning. They tried to push him as a baby face. Maybe he's just a natural heel and he should have been there. So the segment was fine.
There were a few things I really enjoyed about this. First off was that Sable, that robe was so skimpy, she could not even keep those enormous rubber tits contained within that robe. So that was fun to see. And also the fact that they're capitalizing on the swimsuit issue, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue was an enormous money maker back in the day. So, it's all about the pay window, and they are definitely capitalizing on that. So great idea to do that. And I liked the Tom Brandi part because he got fucking humiliated like he should this time around. So I actually enjoyed it.
All right. Well, that is a good spin to put
it
on
is,
it, so.
Yeah.
After that, we broke to commercial on the image of that group of guys who were sick of getting screwed walking down to the ring, and we came back to them in the ring.
I feared that the DOA had become bigger when I saw this. I'm like, please no.
I have this segment noted as the 7 angry jobbers.
Oh, jeez.
Well, for the record, everybody, this was 8-Ball, Skull, Chains, Mosh, Thrasher, Scott Taylor, and Flash Funk, who did not look flashy or funky, I was happy to see, by the way. But these were all guys who have been smeared by Kane in the recent past.
And every single one of them, except for the Nazi fuck brothers, have been jobbers of the week.
Yep. Chains being the new mouthpiece, since Jailbird went back to the pokey, he got on the mic and challenged Kane. Of course, the lights went out for Hellfire and Brimstone. And, I gotta say, despite the DOA in this, I was enjoying this. What a great way to put over Kane, this group of angry people that are tired of it. But just as Kane entered the ring, the lights went out again, and the bell tolled, taking this to the next level. Taker got in the ring, but in another swerve, bro, he started attacking everybody but Kane. He and Kane each beat on some people, clear the ring, and stand off briefly until the Undertaker leaves. He got a final statement in front of the camera at the top of the entryway saying that he will burn in hell before he ever fights his brother Kane. Joe, I loved this new development. Way to freshen up the story and keep it going. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, really freshening it up, It's still, the root of the story is that Undertaker does not want to fight his brother, and now he's coming out to help him. So, that's a lot different than what we were getting before, where it's just Kane kind of slapping him and trying to get him to fight him, and he won't do it. So this is a nice way to go with this angle. I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it. We have these 7 angry jobbers who come out and they get jobbed out again. They just get their ass handed to them by Kane and The Undertaker, as well as you both pointed out, switching the story up. It's run its course with Kane coming out here and taking these people out. So has The Undertaker coming out and getting slapped. So this is something a little bit different. And we get a little taste of the Brothers of Destruction here, which was really cool. I loved seeing that. And then, the justification here basically is The Undertaker says, Kane's my brother, just like I won't fight him. I'm not going to allow him to get jumped by 7 fucking jobbers. I'm going to give him a hand. So I loved it. Everything about it.
Yeah, same. The thing that I really liked about it is that in terms of the story, at least, it goes another step farther of showing Kane that The Undertaker isn't the problem. Paul Bearer is the problem.
Yes.
And that subtext to their story and how it evolves that way, that was probably my favorite part of this.
Yeah, the Undertaker's there trying to show Kane, hey, I will always have your back regardless of what you're trying to do to me right now.
Yeah. Speaking of people doing stuff to other people, moving along to Michael Cole, backstage in the locker room with the New Age Outlaws. I guess the New Age Outlaws are supposed to be defending the tag titles against the Legion of Doom at the Royal Rumble.
Oh.
That's news to me. Not really welcome news either, but I digress. The New Age Outlaws, though, they were freaking out on Michael Cole. Billy Gunn was yelling about some guy with a chainsaw chasing them around. The Road Dogg was screaming, "Did you not see the chainsaw?" And sure enough, that got interrupted by a fucking chainsaw blade cutting through the locker room door. Cactus Jack did get the Shockmaster treatment, though, falling through the doorway, busting it off the hinges. It looked like he was laughing his way through that. I'd like to think he was, at least. Charlie followed him in, swinging that fucking chainsaw around, and I fucking popped all over again. I mean, I couldn't contain myself, and they chased them out of the locker room, and that ended there. Charlie got followed by an op-ed from Jim Cornette. We haven't had one of those in a couple weeks. He was talking about how shitty modern wrestling is, including the WWF, because of all of the non-wrestling content in it. And he says people tune into a wrestling show to see wrestling, and they're not getting it. That was well done and entertaining, like all of his op-ed segments have been, but it's also literally the same thing that Corny has been saying for the past 25 years. So, if you've listened to any of his podcasts in recent years, you get the gist of his argument here.
It's funny. The last line of my notes is, he's been doing the same thing for 25 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was followed by the Slam of the Week, sponsored by Bushido Blade.
Ooh.
The Slam being last week on Raw when Stone Cold nailed Santa Claus with a stunner, so that was good. And then Sunny. Sunny was out next. She was looking great, and she got all of 3 seconds. She didn't even get the whole way down the ramp to display her centerfold, from the Raw magazine, and she just as quickly left. I guess she wasn't allowed to talk tonight. I don't know, but that kind of pissed me off. And finally, we got the lowdown from JR. The WWF is officially in talks with Mike Tyson to have Mike featured as part of WrestleMania in some kind of capacity this year, 1998. So that's it for the big wall of non-wrestling content in the middle of this hour. Ryan, what'd you have on this final section of it?
So as I kind of pointed out earlier, I loved the part with the New Age Outlaws here. Starts with them shaking Michael Cole around like a rag doll. I'm always gonna get a pop over that. And then when Chainsaw Charlie comes cutting through the door like Jack Nicholson and fucking The Shining, great. And the way that the Outlaws reacted to it really added to it. They seemed legitimately terrified. Cornette, not a ton to really add here. Like I joked about, if you've listened to Cornette over any point in the last 25 years, this has been his general gripe. So it's just a little bit more of that. But I was pumped to see Bushido Blade, always will be, with its unique sword play, as Michael Cole tells us. And then Sunny, she comes out here and, in the 20 seconds that she has here to push and promote the swimsuit edition, my Lord, she just does such a better job than Sable.
So much more charisma.
Yes, that's exactly. Just, she doesn't even have to say anything. The charisma just pours out of her, and her personality is just so clear here. So even though she was there for 20 seconds, better than anything Sable did out there. Mike Tyson, that's interesting that we learned the baddest man alive is going to be involved in WrestleMania 14. We know not in a wrestling capacity, but they tell us we don't know right now. So they're leaving us hanging there, which is the right thing to do. So yeah, a wall of non-wrestling, but for the most part, not bad. I mean, it was filler content, but good filler content.
Yeah, Attitude Era content for sure.
Yeah.
I love seeing Pipsqueak Michael Cole in this situation too. I just, I love when he's in the back with some huge wrestler and just looks even more like a Pipsqueak, and Billy Gunn is yelling at him. And this is a good example of Vince with his "we make movies, pal" thing that he always used to say. You know, this is like, they are selling it like it's a real horror movie. Like Terry Funk looks like a fucking maniac with that chainsaw, and Billy and Road Dogg looked legitimately terrified, but it's also hilarious. So it's really good job by everybody involved there. Jim Cornette, again, he's kind of giving me old man yelling at the clouds vibes there again, but I think we're building up to that new NWA bullshit that they eventually did.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they're going with that. So we'll see how that goes. Sonny, man, it's disappointing. You know, you can see this is where that jealousy really started to ramp up, probably with her and Sable in the back, and totally understandable. She needs more TV time for sure. And yeah, Mike Tyson, a great tactic to use here, saying that he is negotiating with Vince. So it kind of leaves it up to debate about, you know, how he's going to be involved at WrestleMania exactly. And we need to stay tuned in to find out. So great angle there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick, I want to briefly highlight the excellent swordplay mechanics of the Bushido Blade series, especially the spiritual successor to Bushido Blade, Kengo, Master of Bushido. So,
well, let's clarify, that is a PS2 game.
Yes.
Kengo is PS2. Bushido Blade is PS1.
Probably the single best gameplay mechanics ever invented.
Yeah,
I would say in Kengo at least. All right, so let's move it to our final match of the night. Owen Hart defeats Shawn Michaels with Chyna by disqualification in 10 minutes and 14 seconds, with Shawn Michaels retaining the WWF Championship as a result. Ah, man, it really feels like they're already dropping the ball with Owen. His entrance music is just terrible.
Beep, beep, the truck backing up sound at the beginning.
And even once it gets started, it sounds like something that would be played in like the steel mill in The Simpsons, you know? We work hard, we play hard. It's terrible.
Yep.
And especially in contrast to fucking strippers and good music that make up DX's entrance.
We just go back to high energy at this point.
I know. We were over it, but we got something worse instead.
Yep.
I loved Owen jump-starting the match, if only to get that seizure-inducing editing off of our screen. Things really weren't in the ring up through the first commercial break, and when we came back, it was just starting to get into the ring. Triple H had come out on his crutches, and there was some good work in there. The bigger spots were all things like pile driver. There was a good-looking DDT. Shawn was on top in all of those. There were 3 sleeper holds in a row, which that was stretching my patience a little bit. And then the finish, that was Triple H interfering to prevent Shawn from losing, as we all saw coming. The show ended with Triple H and Shawn beating on Owen, and the best part of the match, Chyna just randomly kicking the referee in the face. Did you guys see that in the background?
No, I didn't.
I missed it,
Yeah, Shawn and Triple H are on Owen in the corner, so if we're looking from the hard camera.
Was it Earl Hebner?
No, I think it was Mike Chioda.
That's a shame.
Bummer.
Yeah, she just did a random standing kick and just boot stomped that ref. It was great.
Well, if it was Earl, he probably would have died, so.
Yeah, like I said, best part of the match for me. So, I gotta say, I didn't care for this. The actual work, it was serviceable. There wasn't anything wrong with it, but it really just felt like Owen was a jobber here. And we all know he's better than that. If we had had maybe some build up to a pay-per-view, or maybe Owen building himself up against other wrestlers before getting to Shawn, I don't know. There are a few different ways I could think of to have done this differently. I just know that it felt like they're wasting Owen's talent with this, and now that he's lost to Shawn in a championship match, where else is he going to go? So, Joe, what'd you think about this match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
They are wasting Owen's talent, but they also wasted an opportunity of a real life story that they could have used in their product. Like, they just gave this away for free. This was something that they've been building up for the last few weeks that I've been pretty disappointed with, just because I think they had more in Owen than they were willing to give to him. Again, I feel like it's probably a little bit of Shawn Michaels in the back being a dick again. Maybe Vince just never saw Owen as a main event guy. Whatever it is, missed opportunity is all I can think of. I mean, they were obsessed with Bret Hart for several weeks after he left.
Yeah.
And this is the payoff. Like, this is just so weak to me to have this be the payoff on that. I mean, the match wasn't terrible. It's just really disappointing that they gave this away for free. They destroy Owen Hart with crutches, and so now that whole story is over. In just a few short weeks, this screw job is over. You know, Owen Hart just came back from one of the most controversial finishes ever in the history of wrestling, and they just did nothing with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The match itself was perfectly fine. You have Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart. They're, of course, going to work good together. But I couldn't help but feel the King at the beginning of this match was kind of speaking from the heart. He says Owen Hart is probably the most underrated wrestler in the WWF today.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was saying that because he felt Owen Hart is getting the Raw deal here. He is having this, what could have been a great program with Shawn Michaels, squashed on a Monday Night Raw quickly after it began. And I think the King and JR, they knew what was happening here. This was going to be the end of this month-long program we've been building towards, and it was just a throwaway match. The ending wasn't bad. The way Triple H busts that crutch over Owen's head, it looked fine. And as I said before, the wrestling wasn't bad at all. It's just, I just come away feeling dirty about the way Owen Hart is being treated here. And it's just hard to shake that taste out of your mouth,
Yep. Well, like I said, we faded to black. So let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you take that first?
So my highlight, I think there were quite a few highlights in this episode, but I have to go with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. Fuck me. Cornette is right. Someone comes out of a box and they're over. You know what I mean? Because this just fucking hit on all cylinders for me. Highlight. And the low light, no surprise here. Los Barriquos versus DOA, the crater of this episode. Low light.
The crater.
Well, regardless of that crater and the fact that I hated the treatment of Owen Hart, I'm going to say that I did not have a low light here on this.
It's
the
a
first
good
time
Raw.
in a long time. Yeah, because name one guy that you maybe wanted to see and didn't see him on this episode, or her. I mean, everybody is here on this episode making some type of appearance, and you top it off with the Chainsaw Charlie debut, and it's like, if somebody wants to watch a good Attitude Era Monday Night Raw, this is a good one to point them to.
Yeah,
so
it's a good one.
I'm gonna go with no low light in the entire show as my highlight.
Well, I'm falling in line with Ryan on this one. Low light, gang warfare, not entertaining at all, especially given who's involved in it. Highlight, specifically the debut of Chainsaw Charlie. I mean, the rest of it was awesome too, don't get me wrong, but just cutting through the box, coming out of the box, my God.
Gasoline guzzling in a different meaning than we typically mean it.
Right. I remember watching it live, and this was just such a huge burst of nostalgia for me. I had to give it my highlight, so... Joseph, I don't suppose you have any contemporary Wrasslin news from on and around December 29th, 1997 for us, do you?
Well, there isn't much this week, but something that we sort of brushed past for our for certain reasons, but the Mike Tyson news is really big news for this time period, and that took up most of the Wrestling Observer news section. So Dave Meltzer, his initial thoughts on Mike Tyson appearing at WrestleMania was that he thinks a match between Tyson and Shamrock would be a good booking. However, it probably won't happen because Tyson's people are not going to risk putting him in a match where the odds are that he might lose very quickly.
Yeah.
Also, if Mike Tyson does a worked match, It will most likely piss off the athletic commissions and boxing people, since Tyson is currently serving a suspension for a sport in which he makes a lot of money. So, Dave's sort of speculating what is it that they're going to do with Mike Tyson, and that is really big news back in December of 1997. So a big acquisition for WWF for sure. And that is all. The only other thing I have is that Dave Meltzer gave the Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels match a 3.5-star rating.
Oh, jeez.
Like I said, the wrestling was fine, but...
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joseph. It's illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin' Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most belligerent Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin' Raw, we are going to be doing our 1997 year in review. So gear up for that one, kids. We're going to be talking about our match of the year candidates. For the record, that is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at Ground Zero, Cactus Jack versus Triple H on Monday Night Raw from, what month date was that? I can't read my own handwriting. From Raw. September 22nd, 1997. Jesus. My God, I need to lay off the somas whenever I'm making these notes. And finally, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at the Hell in a Cell. So we'll be talking about that. Ryan is going to grace us with the Jobber of the Year.
We had some real winners this year.
I am very much looking forward to who you picked for that.
In my head, I already got a clear winner, so.
Excellent. We'll also be talking about the things that we enjoyed about 1997 and the things that we are looking forward to in 1998. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason. This has been Wrasslin' Raw.